Welcome back to Cozy English Corner. I am Alex, and today we are looking at a topic that seems simple on the surface, but actually holds a lot of psychological depth.
Thank you for having me, Alex. I walked in here brushing snow off my coat, which is ridiculous because it was almost 80 degrees just 3 days ago.
That is standard Columbus, Ohio spring weather for you. You can experience 4 distinct seasons in a single afternoon.
It really is. I own a bakery near the Ohio State campus, and trying to predict the weather for our morning foot traffic is nearly impossible. But we manage.
Running a business requires a high level of organization, and that actually connects perfectly to what we are discussing today: the words bring and take.
I deal with those two words constantly. I'm always telling my suppliers to bring me flour, or telling my drivers to take the deliveries to the customers.
It sounds very clear when you say it. However, many English learners, and honestly many native speakers, struggle with when to use which word.
I understand why. Before I opened the bakery, I worked in supply chain logistics. I learned that movement is never just movement. It is about where the center of control is.
That is a brilliant way to phrase it. The center of control. In grammar, we call this the deictic center. It means the point of perspective.
Right. If you are the person receiving the item, you want someone to bring it to you. The item is moving toward your location.
Exactly. Bring shows movement toward the speaker or the listener. It is associated with the verb come.
And take is the opposite. It involves movement away from the speaker. It pairs with the verb go. You take the trash out. You do not bring the trash out.
Unless you are a raccoon bringing the trash into your home.
Exactly. But I think the confusion happens when we have to imagine someone else's perspective. That requires mental energy.
I want to explore that mental energy. There's a psychological concept called cognitive load. Formulating a sentence using bring or take actually requires you to mentally map a physical space.
That makes complete sense. When I call my husband and say, "Can you bring dinner home?" I am mentally placing myself at home, even if I am still at the bakery.
Yes, you are projecting your perspective into the future destination. You are asking the item to come to where you will be.
It is exhausting, honestly. Being the person who manages all the bringing and taking in a household or a business is a heavy, invisible burden.
I am so glad you mentioned that. Let us talk about the unspoken pain here. We treat these words as just grammar, but they represent our mental load.
They really do. Think about how many times a day you have to remember to take your keys, take your umbrella, bring your laptop to the meeting, bring home milk.
You become the ultimate project manager of your own life. And if you make a mistake, there are consequences.
Exactly. If I forget to take my inventory list to the supplier, my whole morning is ruined. The anxiety of forgetting something keeps me awake at night.
I read a fascinating study from cognitive linguistics recently. It showed that when we hear words related to spatial movement, like bring and take, the motor cortex in our brain activates.
Wait, really? You mean our brains physically react as if we are actually carrying the object?
Yes, this is called embodied cognition. We do not just process the words as abstract ideas. Our brain simulates the physical effort of moving the item.
That explains so much. No wonder I feel physically exhausted when I have to give my staff a long list of things to bring from the storage unit.
Your brain is doing the heavy lifting before the actual lifting even happens.
It also explains why communication breaks down so easily under stress. If my brain is tired, I cannot properly imagine your location.
Precisely. To use bring properly when talking to someone else, you need empathy. You have to step outside of your own physical reality and see the world from where they are standing.
Providing an example. Language is so deeply tied to connection. If I'm in a coffee shop here in Columbus and I tell my friend, "I will take a coffee to your office," I am focusing on my departure.
Correct. The coffee is moving away from your current location.
But if I say, "I will bring a coffee to your office," I am mentally placing myself beside my friend. I am focusing on the arrival, the shared moment.
That is a beautiful distinction. Take often feels transactional. Bring feels relational. You are bringing something to share an experience.
This makes me think about emotional baggage too. We use these same words for abstract feelings, do we not?
We absolutely do. Can you give me an example of how you see that?
Well, people always talk about bringing your past into a new relationship, like dragging an old, heavy suitcase into a clean house.
Yes, that implies the past trauma is moving toward the current environment. It is entering the new space.
And the healthy alternative is usually phrased with take, like, what lessons did you take away from that experience?
That is brilliant. You take away the wisdom, removing it from the painful situation to use it later.
It is strange how much insecurity is hidden in these grammar choices. A lot of people are afraid of bringing too much of themselves to a situation.
I understand that completely. We are afraid of being a burden. We are afraid that if we bring our true selves, the other person will not have space for it.
Exactly. When I hire new bakers, they are often so nervous. They ask, "What should I bring on my first day?" They mean tools, but they also mean expectations.
And what do you tell them?
I tell them to just bring a willingness to learn. Everything else, all the stress, they can leave at home. They do not need to take their anxiety into my kitchen.
Notice how you use the words there. Take their anxiety into my kitchen implies the anxiety is moving from their home, away from their safe space, into the workplace.
I did not even notice I did that. It is so ingrained in how we speak.
It is automatic for native speakers, which is why it is so frustrating for English learners. But understanding the why helps.
Let us talk about some common phrases, because that is where the confusion really amplifies.
A great idea. Let us look at phrasal verbs. For example, bring up.
To bring up a topic. Like, I did not want to bring up the budget issues during the staff meeting.
Exactly. You are elevating an idea, bringing it to the surface where everyone can see it. It is coming toward the group's attention.
It is usually uncomfortable. People hate it when someone brings up an old mistake.
Because you are forcing them to look at it again. What about the opposite? Take back.
Oh, like retracting something you said. I am sorry I called your cake dry. I take it back.
That is an excellent example. You are literally grabbing the offensive words and removing them from the space.
If only it were that easy in real life. Once the words are out, the damage is usually done.
Very true. Now, what about physical objects with fixed expressions? For example, public transportation.
We always use take. You take a bus, take a train, take a flight. I assume because the vehicle carries you away.
Exactly. You surrender your control to the vehicle, and it takes you from point A to point B.
It is funny. The only time I hear bring with vehicles is when people joke about an Ohio State football game. They say, bring the bus around.
Yes, because in that scenario, the speaker is commanding the vehicle to come toward them. The perspective changes.
Perspective is everything. It is a good life lesson, honestly. A lot of conflicts could be avoided if we just pause to consider where the other person is standing.
I completely agree. Empathy in grammar. When you choose bring, you are acknowledging the receiver's space.
And when you choose take, you are acknowledging the effort required to move something out into the world.
There is a phrase I hear often. Take it easy. It means to relax. Why do you think we use take there?
Maybe because you are actively choosing to remove stress. You are taking a relaxed approach and applying it to your life.
I think that is a wonderful interpretation. You are taking possession of the calmness.
As opposed to bring it on, which means you are inviting the challenge to come directly at you.
Yes, bring it on. It shows complete readiness. The threat or challenge is moving toward you, and you are prepared to face it.
I feel like I need to say, bring it on, every morning when I unlock the doors to the bakery.
Especially during a busy weekend in Columbus.
You have no idea. But honestly, understanding this grammar rule makes me feel a little more patient with my staff. They are not just making mistakes, they are trying to map the world.
That is the ultimate goal of learning a language. It is not just about perfection. It is about reducing the friction between people.
If you can understand where someone is coming from, literally and figuratively. You can communicate so much better.
Well said, Clara. To all our listeners, the next time you use bring or take, pause for a second. Think about the direction and think about the other person.
And please, remember to take your umbrella today if you live in Ohio. You will need it.
A vital piece of advice. Thank you so much for joining us, Clara, and thank you to everyone listening. Keep practicing, and we will see you next time on Cozy English Corner.